Hi, my name is Nate Nistler, and this is Hyperactive Studios. Alright, so with that, last class we went over, or last video I should say, we went over the PHP for part 1. We're going to continue on with PHP part 2 here, and we're going to dive deeper and deeper into this. So we have this here. There is one thing I realized I left out, and that is that we can actually do a concatenation equals. I'm going to kind of do that with our strings down here. So say I wanted to add two words together, and I can just assign this to a variable. Just as a, for instance, let's do this real quick, and then we move on to doing condition statements. But anyways, if I do $sign here, and then I say something like word1 equals, and let's say it's like dog here, semicolon, and the next one's going to be $sign word2, and that equals, like that, semicolon, let's say house, like that. And then we can concatenate the two together and say something like word3, I guess, really. We can do this word3. We could say equals word1. Semicolon, and then later on I could say word3 here is dot equals, in this case, word2 variable. Like that, and then if I echo out word $sign word3 like that, it will actually say dog house, because it'll take the word dog and assign it to word3, and then it'll take the word house and concatenate it to word3, and it already has dog in there, so it'll be dog plus house is dog house, and there's no space or anything, so it'll just say it all in one word. So if I save that, pop back over to my web browser and refresh, I get dog house. There we go. So that's an example of being able to use concatenation with equals. So say dot equals, and that lets you concatenate two parts of text or strings, shall we say, together and glue them together more or less. Alright, with that though, let's start another file, and let's just call it something like, I don't know, conditions. Yeah, sorry, I need to actually save that into the name. Brain's off in another place. Save as. Alright. Alright, and so I'm going to say conditions dot php, not py. Alright. Save. Alright, and then I can do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Now, one of the things I can do here is I can say, oh, alright, so I'm just going to come on down here real quick. And can use an include. Alright, let's say include, something like that. And then what do I want to include? Semicolon. Why I want to include a particular file, maybe functions, for instance, .php, and save. DB query. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, I didn't put in PHP text. Let's say I did that right. Okay, I did. I just didn't put in PHP text. It's not highlighting up. Oops, my mistake. Alright, whatever. Alrighty. And so that will include everything we coded up in the functions PHP. And so for that reason, I'm going to come back into this file and leave it just with the functions and not actually running this code. So kind of important to do that, otherwise I will be seeing all that stuff, and I really don't want to see all that stuff. So good idea not to. Alright. I mean, and technically if I'm doing this right here, I also wouldn't need global variables anymore, so because I'm passing values in. So I would really want just that also. might going, oh no, it's alright, because what I'll do is I'll make calls to this. This will just hold functions, and then I will do my coding in here that I want to use those functions as far as that goes. So for instance, I can come in here and define a few variables. I can define x and y if that makes everybody feel comfortable. X and x is equal to, I don't know, let's say 10 for instance this time. Semicolon, and let's say $sign y is equal to 15 for instance, semicolon. Alright, cool. And just to show that we still have this functionality, add and close parentheses like this, I can say something like $x, comma, $y, like that. And this should give me that result. So I need to go in and type conditions in here for my PHP file because it's no longer the same anymore. Actually, if I just run functions, I should get nothing at all. And I don't. Awesome. Am I going, oh no, it's alright. It's alright. No worries. Conditions. Like that. Awesome. And bam, there we go. So, cool. I was actually able to import a file from a whole nother file and use it, make use of it. And I was able to do that with this functions here. And of course, this is kind of counterintuitive with add. We shouldn't have a subtract going on. So I'm going to go in and change this too while I'm at it. Well, I'm in the mood for changing things, so let's just change it all. There we go. Awesome. Oh, what am I doing? No, I need to do that, and I need to keep, yeah, like that. My apologies. And I need that concatenation point too. Kind of important. Alright. Now it's the way it should be. And so now if I come back over to Firefox and I reload, there we go. That's more like it. If you're doing an add function, it should add, and it shouldn't be doing other things other than adding. So good idea, and let's keep it that way. Alright. So I just modified it for that reason. But anyhow, now we have our add, and it's working great. But what if we only want to do an add on certain conditions and not add otherwise? And then maybe display a message on some other condition for some other reason. All right. So if I say like if here, this does a condition statement, and what I can say is I can say if maybe x is less than y. Really need to give it tags like that, and then I just come in here and say open curly brace, and we need a closing curly brace on that if like that. So if x is less than y, then it'll do it for that function. And so you should see no change basically. Bam, it did it. You might go on, it didn't do anything. Yeah, wait, just this. What if x needs to be greater than y in order to do this if statement here? So if that's the case, then if I come back over here, I should see nothing at all afterwards. I don't see anything because it's not true. So why does this work? Well, if we're saying that x needs to be greater than y in order for this condition to work, then that's not going to be a true case here. So we're going to get a false here because x is obviously not bigger than y. Is 10 greater than 15? And the answer is no, it's not. 10 is not greater than 15. However, when we had the less than symbol in here, is 10 less than 15? The answer is yes. So, x is 10 and y is 15. So that's a true statement. I can use another statement called else, that if all else fails, it does it. More or less. And I can say something like echo in here, and I can say space, quotes, semicolon at the end, and say we did not have the condition appear. Evaluate to true. So meaning that it wasn't true, it was false. And so this statement appears instead. So it's x less than 15. Y 15. Let's say it must be greater than for that to work. So if I come over here and I run this again, we did not have the condition evaluate to true. So we can create alternate scenarios here where we have different things work in different ways. Let's make this a little more clear. Let's see something here. What if we wanted to do something a little different here? If we had, as an example, let's say username, it's the name of a variable. Now let's say it equals Sally. Alright, Sally it is. Alright. So if username, that, or just user would have been better, but if it's username and it's equivalent to Sally, then in this case what we'll do, I'm just going to create something totally different here. Let's do some HTML this time. Let's say that we're going to do the HTML tag for this would be some echo. Let's do some quotes, semicolon, and then, oh, I don't know, what should we do? Let's just do a p tag, I guess. That works. I mean, I could do a div. I don't want to. P tag, just for this example, this is short enough. This is fine. And just close that p tag like so, and then we say welcome, and then we can do our username. And technically, I can come in here and do this like that, and then I can come in here for my styling and say style, right, and invoke a bit of CSS, and I could say something like color colon, and maybe I want the color to be green, for instance. Alright, so if we get Sally, we get green. Whereas if we don't get Sally, then maybe it's going to be blue instead. Alright, blue it is. And save. And so now the color will be blue if it's not the case, if it's not Sally. But if it's Sally, it should be green for this text. Alright. I get neither or. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to get this worked out. Right now it's not working. Oh, I get nothing at all. And the reason why this is happening, well, has nothing to do with the condition or the code here. Actually has everything to do with the fact that I made that stupid mistake I just warned everyone not to make and taught everyone how to get around. I need to do single quotes here instead of double quotes because we have double quotes here inside the style tag, so it's not going to be compatible. And that's kind of the issue there. Really simple mistake to make, but it will keep it from working. And then we'll have one more problem here because it'll actually show username instead of the actual username. It's because we need to concatenate it. So if I say, reload there, come back over here, we have username right here. So like that, and it just needs to be concatenated in single quotes like that. And so I'm just going to go in here and select all that and drop down here and save like that. Boom. Bada bing, ba boom. Alright. Alright, so with that, we'll say refresh. We say welcome Sally. We can have a little more fun with this. We can make Sally capital letter S. A little nicer since it's her formal name. Well, not formal name, but it's her name. Typically we make names uppercase according to English rules. So there we go, as far as that goes. Okay, but what if wasn't Sally? What if it was Tom instead, right? So what if we had Tom in here? It's going to be blue instead. So this example will be able to actually dynamically change the code for the HTML output based on using PHP. So this got computed server side. It only updated and changed when I reloaded the page, and didn't happen anyway else otherwise. But this is quite cool, and it calculated at that point in time. So if you're clicking around the page, it's not going to update and change in the page. It's only when you submit the page or click on a link to go to another page, then it gets generated, then it gets computed, and not prior. There's a way to get around that with jQuery, or maybe you want to use Dojo or something like that, and you do Ajax. I'm not getting into that right now. That's further down the line. But traditionally, the way PHP works, and not being forced to work in another way, it does it based on page load. So with that, we have created a condition here where one thing changes to another, and we can keep going with this. Like, for instance, I could come in here and say something like oh well, else if, for instance, else if, and I could say it with close parentheses, and I could say I'm too lazy to type this again, so what I'm gonna do essentially it's almost funny. Alright. Like that. Copy and paste that. I'm going to change that from Sally to like Tom. And for when Tom comes up, we'll make him red. Alright, Tom, you're red now. So what this does, it says, okay, if Sally, and of course it's Tom, so it's not going to do this one. And then it's going to say, okay, well then else if Tom, and then if it is Tom, then it'll do this code, and it'll completely skip the else altogether and exit out of this code. That's what the power of else if. I could do a series of ifs, and then like if one thing is true for multiple statements based on different combinations of conditions, then I can end up having a whole series of conditions test out to be true, and then each one does its part of its code based on its conditions. And that would be if you did a series of ifs. So that's the difference between else if and if. I always do this example because I came from the game programming industry, so I think in that direction more. But okay, say I have a game controller, right? And if I did an else if statement with it, for my directions, like up is 1, down is 1, left is 1, and right is 1, and say I want to do diagonal, right? Well, say I push the controller up into diagonal. Technically, it's actually up and, like, say we're going to the right. So maybe it's up diagonal right. We're pushing it up diagonally to the right, and that would be true for up and to the right. Well, if I did else if, what would happen is whichever one was first. Let's say up was first, right? In your if condition statements, say this first one was up, and the second one here was down, and then the third one here was something like or okay, let's just say the second one here is to the right. Okay, so this one's up and this is to the right. Well, if this is else if, it'll go up and it won't go to the right because it'll test true on this condition, and the moment it does that, it'll skip out the rest of this code. But if we do a series of ifs on that conditions in that scenario, then basically what we'll have is up gets tested true, and it'll do its stuff for up for the I'm not gonna get into how that works, and then basically the right test test is true, and then we do our manipulation for our vector to the right. Again, I'm not getting into that, how it's physics and stuff like that. I'm not getting into it. But anyways, and that would let us do up and to the right, and then let the character move diagonally up and to the right. So the same kind of idea here with this. In this case, we really do want it to be else if. It's either going to be Sally, or it's going to be Tom, or someone else. And it's going to be a particular person. And so because it's going to be a particular person, I want to exit out of this code right away. I don't want to keep testing and say, after we find Tom, I don't want to keep going, hey, is it Tom? Is it Tom? Is it Tom? No, I don't want to do that. Because, if I test or found out it's already Tom, and I go check to see if it's Fred, obviously that's stupid to check for Fred, and check to see if Tom is equal to Fred after we already found that Tom is Tom, as far as that goes. So after we do the code for Tom, we really have no reason to keep testing other people on this conditions setup here. And so we need to immediately exit out of this condition block, or aka condition block would be all this code here. We need to exit out of this condition set of conditions here and go down to the next line after it, because it serves no purpose to do it with inside of these conditions. So if I come in here with it set to Tom, we're going to get red text now. And bada bing, it's red now. Hey, Tom. You have red text now. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, that right there is set up. We could also take this a different direction. And it'd be like the not. So one of the things we have here, and this is kind of counterintuitive, there's a couple different ways I can write this. I can either say not equal that way, or I could do the not equal that way. Either one works. I'm going to go with the additional one from C++ instead of doing the one from Visual Basic. So I prefer it, but okay, just to prove it, both work. There, C++ edition, Visual Basic version of it for how to go about it. Alright, so save that, come over here, and update it. And I now have Tom as green. Ooh, why green? Well, because it's not Sally and it's not Tom. So is Tom not Sally? Yes, so it's green. That's it. So it leaves it. If we got down here, is Tom not Tom? And of course it'd be false. Tom is Tom. So it wouldn't do the red here. And it's not going to do blue because we already found that Tom is not Sally. So that essentially is how that works. And that's why we have Tom is now green there. I'm just going to go back to my equals because I like that better. Alright. Okay, so we got if, else. We got all those covered. Now let's go over a few more here. We still have our other condition that we can do, and that's if here. And we're just going to go ahead and start these down here, and let's just do our add. And let's put our $x going into here, comma, $y going into there, like so. Alright, saved it, and then I'm going to come over here to the control S. It's faster that way. For my if condition statement here, I'm going to say $x. I'm going to say is it less than or equal to $y. So this is a way of saying, okay, you can have it not just be less than, but it could be less than or equal to. And then you can say less than equal to this way. And we can see a mathematical expression on that. And there we go. So it displayed it, because of course x is less than or equal to y. Or shall we say 10 is less than or equal to 15. I could do it the other way too, though. I can say greater than or equal to. Obviously it's not going to be equal to, and it's not greater than. So this is going to be false. And so it disappears. So that's pretty cool. And this is yet another way of handling this. And it's very powerful, actually. And you have all kinds of capabilities with this. These if statements and what you can do with them. It's really quite powerful. But there's actually a couple more that I'm not going to cover right now. I covered almost everything for as equating one thing to another, but I don't want to get into doing the triple equals right now. I'm going to cover it later along with the bitwise operators later on. I just don't want to cover them right now. They're kind of specialized, and I just don't want to get into them at this point in time. We'll come back to them later. But that's not all. There's other things we can do. And we haven't gotten into it, but there is some other operators, and it gets into doing compound expressions, as it's called. So, like for instance, I could say if x is greater than 5, but maybe and that's and by the way, $x is less than 15. So if it's that range of values, so if basically x is 6 to 14, then it'll do this right here. It's kind of cool. Over to our browser and update, and it's 10. But what if I made 10 outside that range? What if I made 10 like 15 also? If I did, it would no longer be true, right? Because 10 would be equal to 15. I mean, x will be equal to 15. Oh gosh, x will be equal to 15. So because of that, this won't be true. So in the case of and, it really makes sense if you just say it out loud logically. If this statement here is true and this statement is true, then the whole thing is true. Otherwise, if one statement is false or either statement is false, the whole thing is false. So if we say this is true and this is true, then the whole thing is true. But if this thing is true and this thing is false, then it's not true. Right? Kind of makes sense. So if I come back over here to my browser and run this thing, our mathematical expression disappears. Now, what if I change this? What if I said or? So if I did vertical bar, this works logically also. These are what's called logic operators. So now if I come in here and say if this is true or this is true, then the whole thing is true. So both could be true, one could be true, the other could be true, but it has to be both have to be false for the whole thing to be false. And it just makes sense. If this one is true or this one is true, if either one is true, then the whole thing is true. Otherwise, it's false. So come over here to Firefox. And there we go. We have 15 plus 15 equals 30. And it now works. Because we met those criteria of those tested conditions. Now there's one other one too. Oh yeah, and we can also spell it out too. So maybe if you don't want to type it out in C++ style, and you want to type it out more like what you're doing like Python programming language, you can do that. If I come in here and say and, it's going to disappear again. Because we're saying and. So we can also type in the word and that also works. So a lot of people are probably going to prefer that. But if you come from a C++ background, you might just tend to lean towards doing the and symbol for and or the vertical bar for or. And then or is just going to be or, like that. But the Python method like this is more straightforward and more, easy to understand. Alright, so there we go. Bam. So there's or. We also have exclusive or, where one has to be true and the other one has to be false. You can't have both be true and the whole condition be true. And that's XOR. XOR is exclusive or, and that's true, that worked out. But what if both conditions were true and not just one of them? So if I set that from 15 back to 10 again and save it and then run this, wrong thing, go back over to here, I'm going to have that equation drop away because then both were true. Check it out. 10 is greater than 5 and 10 is also less than 15. Well, both were true, and I have to have either one be true or the other be true in order to use exclusive or. So therefore it disappeared because of that, because the whole thing equated to false because we didn't have one or the other be true. You can't have, it can't be both. So exclusive or is one or the other, not both. Whereas just or is like this one or this one. If either one is true, the whole thing is true. It could be both, it could be whatever. But in the case of exclusive or, we're saying just one of them has to be true. Can only be true on that one. So that's the difference there. If you think about it that way, then it's a lot easier. Alright, and there's one more thing I need to do. And I don't know, let's call the variable like test or something like that. $test equals true semicolon. Alright. So if I come in here and I do something a little different, Let's change this up a bit. Let's look at the not. Oh, you know what? I could just do that right there. Hold on a second. Not this whole thing. It's kind of awesome that you can do that. Okay, so remember how I don't even need to set this to true. Although this is, by the way, how you do a true. If you need to do false, you type in false like that. So if you need to set a variable to true or false, that's how you do it. But let's say, for instance, that I want to make exclusive OR where it can't be this one or this one. I want to change that to where it has to be both of them or none, not at all, in order for it to be true. So if I want to switch that up for that functionality, I put not in front of it. So by putting not in front of that, I'm saying it's no longer saying, okay, so let's break this out logically. So we're saying this one or this one only or this one only. So instead of saying that one, if we say not with that, so we're saying not this one only or this one only, meaning that it'd have to be, if you think about that logically, that would have to be mean both or neither one at all, right? Then it's true. So we're saying not for overall condition. We put a not in there, so whatever was true is now false, and whatever is false is now true. So it swaps it. It swaps whatever the conditions are, if you will. If I come in here like that, it now works. Why? Because both were true, and so now the whole thing will display, because we're no longer saying on the exclusive OR, we're saying not. It's essentially exclusive OR. We're saying both have to be true, or neither one is true. So that's how you can accomplish that little logic trick, and using the not statement with that, with a compound basically condition structure here, lets you do something a little more advanced. Crazy thing is you can actually intermix these together. You can actually put if statements inside of if statements. So say we have Tom here, and he equals equals. Check this out. I can do this. Does it make sense in this example? No, but it proves a point that it can be done. Alright, so I can do that. That will work, actually, because we're Tom. If we weren't Tom, it wouldn't work. So if I switch it back to Sally, we're not going to have this work, but it will. Alright, so nothing changed. You're like, going, okay, so what's the big deal? Well, the point is, if it's Tom, and these conditions are true, are both true, essentially, or not true at all for either, then add this and display it. That's basically what we're saying here. And we can nest those condition statements together like that. But what if we were Sally? What if we weren't Tom, but we were Sally? Well, we wouldn't see this at all, actually. So our whole equation is just going to disappear now. Boom, like that, and we get welcome Sally. So you can create more and more complex logic by nesting conditions and things of that nature, and doing more and more advanced things as far as that goes. Alright, that's not all though. We have a couple others here that are kind of interesting, is a way to put it, I guess. Don't know how you want to put it really. And then we can see how this works. So the other one's called ternary. Now I'll be honest with you, hardly anyone uses ternary operators in the real world. It's just one of those things that are there that's so rare you rarely ever see it. You maybe see it one time in 10,000, type thing. Hardly anyone uses this. However, it is a part of the language, so I'm going to cover it. But ternary, people use it so little that some people forget how it even works because it's used so rarely. And I personally never ever use it in the real world. But, like I said, it's part of the language, so let's look at how it works. And actually, let's go ahead and create a variable. Let's call it test for doing this to see if it tests out true or false. So let's just do that. Let's call it test. I'm going to default this thing to false here, like that. And then I'm going to come in here and do my ternary condition here. And I'm just going to say $$ x. I'll say if it's greater than 5 maybe. Question mark. I'll say true. It's returning value colon, otherwise it's false. Alright, and I need to assign this to something. What I'm going to assign this to, since it's one or the other here on this, it doesn't have to be a test condition. I could be doing something totally different like text or whatever. But it is going to get returned. I'm not going to run an actual function or anything like that in there. And I do need to put semicolon at the end of this. So there we go. Something along those lines. And it should run. You don't see anything, and that's fine. It's still doing it. If I come in here, actually, let's do this. Let's say I prefer to do something a little different here. Let's say if username. I mean, this would work. What I just did is just more boring. So I want to do let's test to see if it's Sally. If it's Sally, then we return that it's Sally. And then if it's not Sally, then it's Tom. No, not Toma or anything like that. I'm not doing Japanese right now. Let's say let's call it user equals nothing for there. Semicolon at the end of that. So in test, instead of test, let's just do user. And we can even get crazier with this, but I really don't want to right now. I'm just going to come in here and just echo out afterwards user. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do that instead of the true. I want to echo out a particular person's name. It would be more fun. To me anyways. But and Sally can't be less than or greater than, but it can be double equal to. So it's just that, change that little test condition too. Alright, and there we go. And we get back Sally now, because we are Sally. But if, for instance, we were here on the username and we were no longer Sally, we were Tom, check it out, it is going to change. Okay, and if I come in here, Firefox, refresh this, I get Tom. Alright, great. So there we go. And let's see here. I think I want to do, yeah, there's one other one I'm going to squeeze in here that I considered possibly not doing, but in this video, but I'm going to squeeze it into this video anyways. And that's the switch statement. So let's go ahead and just do that one too. I mean, why not? We got if, else, ternary, and hey, why not? Let's add in switch too while we're at it. So, alright. Let's do something like, we'll keep with this whole username thing. I'm just going to switch here based on the username as my criteria. So $, username, like that. And then I'm just going to come down here and open up my curly braces like so. And after I'm there, I can then say case. And after case, we put in quotes and a colon. And the case here is Sally. Echo. Let's basically tab it again. Sorry. Echo. Yep. And let's put that there. That, and we'll say hello, Sally. How you been? Alright, very excited to see Sally. Don't know why, just maybe she's has a great bubbly personality or something. So everybody just likes to be around her or whatever. I don't know. So Sally's just a nice person, so everybody's happy to see Sally. About Tom, well, we all like Tom too, so we'll be nice to Tom also. Alright, say colon here like this. And if I say echo again, like this. So check this out. This is like a essentially this is like a else if. See, by putting these breaks in here, it basically exits out of this whole structure without having to wait to check the next one. So if we come true on one of these, we leave the whole thing. We don't stay in the switch case structure. We leave the whole thing instead. So if I come in here and I say something like, hello, Tom. How was your vacation? Alright, vacation it is. And then, I don't know, we'll put a break tag BR in there, slash, well, like that, semicolon, like that. There, break, semicolon. And we'll pop out of it like that, like so. And next thing we have is a default here. Colon. And echo. You're not Sally or Tom. You are not to be here. And so we can kind of detect that. BR, close tag, so slash like that, semicolon like that. Really don't need to put a break at the end of this one. Why? Because we're at the very end of the whole structure, so there's kind of no point. Or after it's done doing the echo statement, it's going to exit the whole structure anyways because it's at the end of the structure. So with default statements, there's really no point in putting a break statement. Alright, so depending on whoever it is that we have, depends on what message we say accordingly. And this is kind of becoming more and more commonplace for stuff we're doing here, but hey. And we have Tom, hello Tom, and that's all got smashed together. Why? Well, because we didn't do a break statement up here when we echoed out this. So we want to come in here and echo out with a break statement essentially. So double quotes like that, and then open BR space slash close that like so. Save, come back over here, and then now that'll put it on the next line like that. So we say, hello Tom, how was your vacation? And that happened because our switch case statement said that yes, we did have Tom in there for the user, and so we're doing something with Tom there. So as you can imagine, you have different user profiles and all that, and you can have their data stored typically in a database. You pull that data and assign it to that user according to that particular user. And so you can change a page. That's exactly how Facebook and a bunch of these other websites do it. They just basically do these test conditions with pulling data from places, and they populate the data according to that person. So very, very cool, very, very powerful. And it lets you do lots and lots of customized pages without having to handwrite each page. So it saves you a lot of time and effort than it would be to, and in some cases, some web pages I think would be impossible without this really. You wouldn't be able to do it because you'd have to essentially be able to write code on the fly, and that's not going to happen for the HTML. So this is the only way some things can be done. So if you want a page that can dynamically change according to as data gets inputted or whatever, then this is how you go about it. And it's a lot more work, and this is what it takes. But anyhow, that is all the test condition stuff. In the next video, we'll get into loops and then arrays. Maybe not loops and arrays in the same video. We might. I don't know. We'll see. And then eventually we'll come back to the triple equals and the binary operators because I didn't want to get into it in this video. But with that, that finishes up the rest of the video here for PHP Part 2. And we'll go towards Part 3 in the next video. My name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Thank you very much.